Okay, this is kind of a weird video, I think. I haven't put too much thought into what I'm about to say, but hopefully, ideally, this is helpful to whoever stumbles upon this video. So, specifically, I was thinking about a relationship that I had with this one individual who did some very questionable things. And then what's funny is that there's a black cat sitting across from me. Um, but I noticed these things, and for some reason, I sort of kind of like swept them under the rug. I didn't really take too much heed as to what was going on. And these things in particular, one thing, I saw him like doodling really intensely. Like the amount of focus that he had seemed deliberate and intentional. Like it seemed like he was doing spell work. And I didn't read too much into it. I saw there was like a pentagram, but if you really dig into spirituality, if you really dig into this shit, like you learn that certain symbols are not like as bad as we've been made to believe. You know, like the upside down cross technically should be more of a sign of life than a cross, but like we're not getting into that. He did that, and then I also remember early on in our connection where his eyes rolled to the back of his head and he kind of made this face, and I kind of like chalked it up to him just being silly. Um, but it started to make me think, like, as I'm sitting here and like working on my spirituality, etc., etc., it started to make me think like how it's very possible that he had demonic attachments within him. And I don't talk about that stuff publicly too much, mostly because I have kind of a limited experience with that sort of stuff, you know, like demons and stuff. Like, I have my experiences, but, like, they're not as profound for me to talk about them, you know? And then as I think about this ex, there's another ex that I had, and it's like, does Satan just send his minions in the form of, like, love interests? Because there's another ex that I had who claimed to be connected to a spider deity. The name is like on the tip of my tongue. It starts with a T. And it seemed valid. Like, it wasn't a thing as to where he was just talking and it was just like, whatever. Like, no, he was like explaining it. And then also, there would be spiders that would pop up. Like how do you explain that? As I talk about, I'm getting chills. But like, he would talk about having a spider deity, like working with him or whatever, like being married to him or something. I don't know. And then like a spider like appeared, like it was like on me, and I was like, whoa, or like almost on me. It was like something where I was like, oh, this wasn't him. Like he didn't just pull a spider out of his pocket. Like it was a thing. And he was overall a pretty good person. I've talked about him in videos before, I think. He also had stole my phone at some point. This is unrelated to anything, but he had stole my phone at some point. He had done a lot of questionable things. Like, overall, he was a good guy, but he did questionable things. And he stole my phone. Um, right after I asked him a question about money, I was like, you know, looking out for his well-being. I was like, when are you going to have money? And he was like, right now? He ran off with my fucking phone. And that was a whole moment. It's not funny, but I'm thankful I can laugh about it in hindsight. I read a lot of books in that time. It was like a very fruitful time for me, knowledge-wise, I think. But it's also possible to say that this dude had demonic attachments to him. And I think to some degree we all have different attachments, especially when we're talking about like generational trauma and like shit like that. It's just like the Brat song is playing in my head right now. I've never done the dance officially, but like I think the apple's rotten right to the core from all the apples that have fallen from the floor. I messed up the lyrics. And then I'm thinking of also the Kamala Harris line. You think you fell out of a coconut tree? No. You exist within the context of everything that has come before you. You know, like, you don't exist in a vacuum. And I feel like that's an interesting way to think about it. And, like, I don't know. I feel like my Gemini is showing with this sort of video because part of me was prompted to meditate on this for a little bit before I made a video. And I did for like a couple seconds. But then I was like, you know what, let me just get this out while I still have it fresh in my mind. And hopefully we'll make magic. I don't know. But and I was also thinking outside of this video, like before I started recording, like about the idea of like balance within relationships and like, because I was thinking about my, like the context of my own desirable relationship and like how I would like to be in a high vibe relationship, like a connection where like we're both kind of like woo-woo, esoteric, like spiritual, like up in the clouds sort of energy. But then I started thinking, and I was like, and I feel like my guides are also like here with me as I'm speaking. But like, I was thinking about like how a lot of people, and this could also just be a trauma thing, but a lot of people tend to choose partners that are somewhat opposite to them. Like, sure, they might have some compatibility or whatever, but a lot of times, like, when we talk about light and dark attributes, like, there's, like, a polarity situation happening with a lot of relationships, you know? Like, one person is super bubbly and charismatic and, you know, and then the other one is very stoic and patient and rigid. And this isn't always the case, obviously. If you have a relationship that is not like that, this isn't, I'm not talking about you. But I was thinking about it in a spiritual context and, like, the idea of like someone who's very of the light, very like, you know, being with someone who's very earthy, very like 3D, and I don't think it's a necessity, but it does make sense as to why that's like a thing, you know. But I don't know, that's unrelated to anything else. I just want to share that because I'm talking about relationships specifically, my own relationships. This cat, see, I coughed and then she started coughing. I'm like, what's going on? Anyways, she's not bothered by it. It doesn't seem so. Whatever. One thing I think that we would do a lot better with as a society is, I mean, like, I don't know, because I've been thinking about this the last few days. Like, there's like, so much fucked up shit going on with society, like the election cycle, politics in general, and the way that we like come at each other with our politics, etc. How we settle for less than love in situations. And you can't force love in a situation where there is no love. That's whatever. But I think it's far too common for us to like settle for unloving, unkind situations. And maybe I'm projecting, I don't know. But if you're listening to this, if you're watching this right now, you're here, and I just want to like put in your head that you don't have to stay where you're unwanted. You don't have to stay where you are mistreated, you know? And maybe the alternative is sucky. Maybe the alternative is foggy and whatnot, but it can be necessary to think about these things. I'm gonna end this here and say thanks for watching if you got to the end, and